Alright guys, welcome back to the shop, and in today's video we have another experiment on cleaning the carbon out of this engine of this Toyota Camry. Now in my last video I attempted to use automatic transmission fluid to help clean the carbon out of the engine as well as the intake manifold, and the video went absolutely crazy. So thank you all for that. Now I'm going to piggyback off that video a little bit because a ton of you commented the same thing. Forget the automatic transmission fluid, try putting diesel fuel in the engine oil right before an oil change and wait till you see the results. Yes, diesel fuel in the engine. Now, to the claim of using diesel fuel, it's supposed to help loosen up the carbon, get some of that varnish out of the engine, and also clean up a lot of the sludge. However, this may be one of the sketchiest things that I've ever done, and I've been doing mechanic work for a long time. But being that it's sketchy means that we are going to do it. Now, there's a lot of comments suggesting on how to use the diesel fuel in the engine oil. Some people said put a quart in, a half a quart in with the engine oil before you change it. Some people said drain half the engine oil out and then fill it up halfway. And I think that is the route I'm going to take. I'm going to drain the engine oil all the way out, put half of that in there and then half the engine oil back in, and then we will run it. I am going to put on a brand new oil filter too when we put the diesel fuel in there, just so we can cut it apart at the end and see if we catch any large chunks of metal or anything of that nature to see if it's actually degrading the insides of the engine. Before we get started, let's do some preliminaries. I am going to change it up a little bit because in the comments too, people also said, could you do a compression test on each and every cylinder, and as well as an engine oil pressure gauge that I threaded into the engine where the oil sending unit used to be. And not that I want to do it, but I'm going to, is remove the valve cover once again so we can see what it looks like on the inside before and after, so nobody thinks that I'm trying to scam anybody by doing this experiment. And before we get started, this is actually diesel fuel. There. Now I figured I had to show this because there's always somebody in the comment that thinks I'm out of my mind, and rightfully so, I probably am. But this car means nothing to me. It's gonna go to bye-bye land. So don't worry, it's all for testing purposes to see if this actually works or not. So let's get started. So first up, let's get our baseline compression test on each cylinder. All right, we are in cylinder number 1. Let's give it a crank. All right, hopefully you guys can see this. We're at about 135. Up next, cylinder number 2. All right, cylinder number 2, we're at about 140-ish. Just shy of like 140. So pretty close, the same as cylinder number 1. All right, cylinder number 3 is up now. Now that one, we actually hit 150. All right, and cylinder number 4. And now the results on number 4 is just a tick over 150, maybe 155-ish. And I'm just gonna do one quick test one more time through just to make sure our numbers aren't very skewed or anything like that. Now we got a little bit better result, but it's still kind of that, let's see, 135, 137-ish. And same thing with number 2. The results were a little bit higher, maybe at maybe 142-ish. Number 3, we're just shy of 150 again. Number 4, just a tick over 150 again. So there is our base compression measurements. Starting with cylinder number 1, we're just shy about 140 PSI, cascading up to cylinder number 4, just over 150 PSI, just by a hair. So that's just a starting point for our cylinder compression measurement. Let's move on to pulling the valve cover off, getting a good look at that again. And we will also check engine oil pressure before we do any of the diesel fuel. All right, so here is what we're working with. You can see we got a lot of buildup kind of everywhere, you know, on the staining on the tubes of the spark plug tubes, staining on the actual cam lobes themselves. And there's definitely carbon that's noticeable. Let's just take a peek at this back here, the cylinder head. Right there, there's some big deposits there. Where the 2 cam gears meet there's some deposits. Here's the valve cover. Maybe it'll clean some of this off. There's actually pretty large chunks of sludge and stuff in that. And right here as well where this little PCV enters. Pretty dirty there too. So that's what it looks like currently. We will pull it off once we run the diesel fuel through it. And also, I'm going to drain the oil, and maybe I'll see if I can get the camera through the oil pan and just kind of look at the crank and stuff like that. So let me get the valve cover back on, and then we will check engine oil pressure, get the oil drained, fill it up with diesel, and see if the magic happens. We're hooked up to the head right here, and we are just shy, kind of teetering right around 70 PSI. So the oil pressure is between 50 and 75-ish. I didn't really let it warm up super hot, but that's what the starting temp looks like with 10W30 in the engine. So now let's get that engine oil drained. We'll just take a peek on the inside of the oil pan with that camera, get a new filter on, put some diesel fuel in it, and we'll let it run for about an hour. Now this time around, I'm gonna try to get some visuals on the inside of the oil pan. Oh yeah, this is gonna be good. Bottom of the crank here. You can see there's a ton of buildup on here too. Take a photo of that. That's number 2. All right, so now I got some visuals on the inside of that oil pan. So we can see the crankshaft, all the carbon and stuff on there too, so hopefully it cleans that up as well. We'll see. So we'll get this thing back down, get the thing filled up, and I will put a new engine oil filter on it too, and get some diesel fuel in this thing. All right, and we are putting a new oil filter on with nothing but the best, the old Super Tech, made in USA. Look at that. All right, making a mess here. There's the old filter and this new one. All right, we will get some engine oil back into this thing. Now I'm just gonna put half engine oil, half diesel fuel, and we will see what the results should achieve here. So now I have 10W30. I measured this out. I got a little over 2.5 quarts in this thing, and this thing holds around 5-ish. So we will just kind of see where we end up here. I'm gonna put this in 10W30, and this is brand new. And as you can see, there's nothing on the stick quite yet. And now the moment of truth. Let's put some diesel fuel in it. This is not measured out. I got about 2 gallons in here. And I got to take this stupid thing off because we all know how these non-venting gas cans are. They don't work. So nothing left to do but pour it in, I guess. Now we just got to see what we got on the dipstick, and we'll just kind of adjust accordingly. You can see we are pretty dang close to being full. I kind of upped that a little bit, so maybe I'll just put a splash more in there just for good measures. And we will do one more quick check. All right, and we might be a little bit over full, but I think you get the point for the test. Might be tough to see that on the camera. All right, so we will call that full. So about half and half oil, half diesel fuel. Will she clean the carbon out of this engine? Now I'm ready for ignition, but I'm gonna push this thing out. I don't want it in my shop because I don't really know what it's gonna do yet. I've never done this. So we'll push it out and we will run it outside. Now I got it pushed outside, so I'm not worried if it blows up inside and dirties up my shop. Ventilates it and throws a rod outside of the block or something. Now we're gonna do an hour on this thing, like so. So 1 hour, and let's get to it, starting now. And for oil pressure, I'm sitting right now at anywhere between that 50 and 75, give or take 65 PSI. That's cold start right now. All right, so we're give or take 14-ish minutes in. You see we're at operating temperature. It's kind of dark to see that. Let's go take a check at our oil pressure. Oil pressure, just under 25, 20 PSI, which is probably normal. I kind of wish I would have checked the engine oil pressure warm with just straight 1030 in it and no diesel additive. Shame on me on that part, but either way, we still do have oil pressure with the engine warm. And we have about, give or take 45 minutes left. So let's just see what happens here in 45 minutes. All right, we got about 2 minutes left, and I just want to say real quick, if you are attempting this, right or wrong, I don't really know the results quite yet, but diesel fuel and engine oil, once they mix, it does dilute the engine oil, so it starts to becoming really, really thin. So it's not good for bearings and stuff long term. So we will see what happens after this, obviously, with the results. But if anybody's ever seen like engine oil and gasoline mix, let's just say you had a faulty pressure regulator, like a fuel pressure regulator, that stuff can dump into the crankcase, and before you know it, whammo, you end up wrecking some main bearings and rod bearings and yada yada. So we got about 1:30 left. I'm gonna get this thing pulled in just a second here. We will get the oil drained and see the results. All right, and we are done. 1 hour complete. We still have oil pressure right around 15, 20-ish PSI. And she's nice and toasty, so let's get it pulled in and see what we got. All right, now for the moment of truth. We're gonna get the engine oil drained, we'll get the filter off, and we're gonna cut that open to see if there's any big flakes of anything in there, or metal shavings, perhaps. And I used 10W30, and I thought that might be a little bit of a thicker oil, you know, to mix with the diesel, so we didn't lose as much oil pressure. And I would say, honestly, we stayed right around that 10 and 15 at idle on a very, very warm engine. I kind of think that's probably normal. I am just gonna run it real quick once I get this all done with fresh oil, and I'll just, you know, complete oil, and then I'll run it once more just to see what the oil pressure still is. I'll just keep the gauge on it. But then, yeah, we'll get the oil drained, all that stuff, and then I'll pop that valve cover off. We'll take an inspection there, and then I'll also stick that camera back up into the oil pan and see if the carbon kind of broke off the bottom side of the, you know, the pistons and the rod and the crank and all that stuff. So let's get to it. Now, first up, we're gonna get this oil filter back off. And I got a pan underneath it, so I'm gonna catch all the oil in this pan from the engine and from the filter here. And what the heck? Okay, maybe not. There's no oil in it. Oh, it smells like straight diesel. Well, that's not good. I mean, there's a little bit of oil on it, but it didn't even fill up with oil. Interesting. Let's get the thing up in the air and see what happened there. All right, just for comparison, this was the new filter, and you can see I'm getting 0 oil coming out of this thing. This is the old filter. We still actually have engine oil in the old filter. So I don't really know what went wrong quite yet. I don't know if the thing had a, you know, like the relief bypass on the oil pump just bypassed it, or if the oil pump started chooching, but I wouldn't think that right away. Either way, let's get the engine oil drained and see if we can figure this thing out. So now, if this oil is super, super clean still, it's gonna lead me to believe that the carbon didn't break up like it's supposed to, because we had clean oil, clean filter, and clean diesel. So let's see what moment of truth here. Okay. Well, I guess it's got a hue of brown. So that's a start. You can see it's kind of a hue of brown, so there's definitely some varnish and stuff that had to come off of it. It smells like diesel. Let's get a temp gun to see how hot that oil got. This probably isn't the most accurate way to do it. I'm just using infrared, and we're at like 152-ish for the engine oil. Oh, but it is pretty dang black, so I bet you this did actually clean some of this yuck out of this thing. I'm gonna let this drain for a little bit, and we'll get the scope back up in there and take a peek. Look at this. Actually, yeah, that did wipe some of the carbon off. Hopefully you can see that. It's not too bright in there. Made it a little darker so it's not, but look at that. That definitely cleaned it up. Holy crap. Yeah, that, look at that. That was all really dark before. Let me take a picture of that. We'll do a before and after on this. That's really clean. Well, I did not know that. I was not expecting that. All right, let me get the oil onto the bench here so we can kind of take a peek at that quick. And then I will just cut that oil filter open just to see what the deal is, because who knows, maybe we fried the oil pump. I don't know yet. Here is the engine oil for what you can see. It's going to be kind of difficult because the camera's lighting. Now there is a lot of like glittery stuff going on here. It's super thin, obviously. Let me just, I got this cup here. Maybe we can try to do that. You can look at this stuff's like water. I don't know if the camera can pick up that. Let me just drop my brightness way down here. Yeah, it's really, really glittery. The oil is definitely glittery, probably more glittery than normal. And I'm just going to go on a limb and say it's probably more than you would want to see. So I don't know if I probably used too much. I used half and half. Somebody recommended that, and that probably might be too much, give or take. 2.5 quarts of oil and 2 quarts of, give or take, diesel fuel. Let me try to take the oil filter apart quick and just see if we see any like shavings in that, just whimsically. All right, I got this thing kind of butchered open here. Some gasket, and maybe oil did go through it. It looks like there's definitely debris on it. I wonder if I can get this paper piece off here. So oil definitely went through this thing. Just was weird that it didn't have much in it. Oh yeah, look at that. Look at all that stuff that broke off into it. There's a ton of stuff. There's big flakes of carbon. Oh wow. Look at all that stuff. Oh yeah, there's some metal flakes right there. I bet you we took out some, look at that chunk of carbon. So definitely diesel fuel will definitely get rid of some of that stuff. There's some flakes in there too. It's shiny. I don't know if you guys can see that on there, but right here, there's definitely metal flakes there. That's probably bearing material for sure. Yeah, it's all over. So I think the relief kicked on the oil pump, and maybe this filter just drained back or something. There's a lot of chunks of crap in this. Wow, interesting. Well, there's your confirmed if it works or not. It definitely works. It's definitely cleaning the engine. Let's take that valve cover off now and see what that looks like. It's coming off. Got the valve cover off now. And you can't really see from the valve cover, but this was that PCV. I think it actually took some of that carbon out of there. It's kind of hard to tell. I'll have to put a before and after on that too. Yeah, it actually, even these tubes, it looks like some of the discoloring on the tubes is gone now. It kind of looks like that actually might be less, and same thing in those back little valley things here where the drains go from the flapping of the cam lobes. I think it's cleaning that as well. Even the cam lobes kind of look less varnished up, give or take. So yeah, I would say does it clean it? Yeah, it definitely does do some cleaning. At what cost? Let's just check compression quick too on every cylinder here, and then I'm going to fill it back up with oil and we'll run it and just make sure we still got oil pressure. Tick over 150 in cylinder number 1. We were at like below 140. However, the cylinder is warm now. Maybe I'll have to redo this test and post the results later when the engine is cold. But I'm just going to run through each cylinder still just to see what it is. We were at 150 on that one too. 155 on cylinder number 3, so that actually went up too. And with that one, give or take, we're at like 156, 158-ish. So they all went up. All right, so I got this thing all buttoned back up. I just want to run it one more time. I did just put 1030 in here, some more fresh oil. And this is just pure oil, no diesel. And I want to just run it one more time and just verify my oil pressure, because I can't really explain the oil filter. I mean, the fluid could have been so thin, being that the fuel mixed in there, that it just, as soon as I shut the engine off, it just all bled out of the fuel filter really quickly. Usually I don't see that as the only thing, but it's a very capable thing that could have happened, because clearly I had flow in the filter with all those particles and carbon debris and all that crap on this thing. So we had oil flow, so that tells me that the oil was pumping. And then, my oil port that I tapped into was at the top of the cylinder head, so engine oil has to be getting into the top of the cylinder. And then clearly the, cams had a bunch of oil and stuff on it too, so it's still working. Let's just, I just want to verify to see if the numbers change a lot now after I run it for a little bit outside until it gets to operating temp. And then just compare, with the diesel fuel versus actual oil in there, what the oil pressure numbers kind of should be. All right, so we just got fresh oil in there, and we're sitting right around that 55, 30-ish oil pressure. So I'm gonna leave it out here for a little bit. I'm gonna rev it up a little bit and warm it up and just come back and just verify the oil pressure. Mind you, I have 10W30 in the engine right now. So I revved this thing up a bit. We're back at operating temp. It's been out here for, I don't know, 20 minutes or so. Let's go take a peek at the engine oil pressure now. Nice and warm. We're reading just about 30 PSI. And the engine is nice and toasty. So, all right, let me pull it back in. All right, so what did this diesel flush do to the engine? Well, does it clean it? Yes. Actually, it probably cleaned it a little bit better than the ATF. However, it's also a lot riskier in my opinion. Now, I'm a big firm believer if just repetitive maintenance is key for keeping any engine clean. So if you just change your oil regularly, you'd be probably miles ahead of most people out there. Now with my current oil pressure readings, we're kind of roughly 25 to 30 at idle. I actually thought it was going to be lower, but with 10W30, we were at like, probably 15 to 20-ish PSI higher than with the diesel mixture. Okay, so clearly that thinned the oil out quite a bit, and we did find some kind of small, but we did find metal flakes in that filter, and the oil was actually glittery too. So that probably had an impact on the longevity of these bearings. So again, a lot riskier. I did use half and half mix. I know a lot of people said you could do that. Maybe they didn't run it for a full hour. I did a whole hour, so that probably didn't help it either. As well as, you probably could have got by with, a half a quart or a quart and probably had a similar effect without taking any, wiping the bearings away per se. Now, as far as doing this on modern engines, I'm a firm believer of not doing it. However, it does work. I mean, if you had a ton of sludge in an engine and you needed to get it out for some whimsical reason, then yes, this would also, remedy some of that. As far as the compression goes, we did increase the compression. However, the engine, when I checked it to begin with, was cold, and then we did it when it was pretty much warm still, and it was like a 10 PSI difference. So I kind of want to just write that off as just the engine warming up, so thermal expansion, creating a tighter gap on those piston rings versus, any carbon built up in the rings or anything like that the diesel fuel washed out of the rings. And you can see from the photos that I took with the camera that it actually did impact the insides. It did clean it. It did a good job, actually. So does mixing diesel fuel and engine oil work to flush your engine out? It absolutely does, but it's a very, very risky one. So everybody in the comments, blow me up below to tell me if I did something wrong or right. But I will say, this old Camry, she is still chooching along pretty good. It runs great. With the 10W30, I got fresh oil in it. The oil pressure is back. Everything is normal. It's not ticking, not knocking, any of that stuff. So we have more tests to run. It's still live. We didn't throw a rod out the block, thankfully. So thank you for the comment. This was a fun experiment and test to try. Blow me up in the comments some more. Let's see what else we can try before this thing, chooches and says good night to all of us. But when that time does, we'll just tear it down and see what failed, because that's always fun to rip and tear too. So hit the like button, subscribe for more experiments. We will catch you in the next one. See you guys.